this thing called MAID. So MAID is medical assisted suicide kind of thing. So people who want to die, they can go through this process, and it sparked a conversation among Christians, like whether this is something ethical, right? And even if it's something moral too, right? Like should you incentivize people taking their lives? Is there a place for someone to take their life if they feel that their life is unbearable suffering? Like, what is your take on that?
The question of euthanasia, only 2015 Canada has taken the position that
2015,
2015 that if a person has irreversible damage and the quality of life is not there anymore,
right?
The government has now granted people to either accept active euthanasia, that is, you inject death, or passive euthanasia, you refuse treatment. Both the options are available.
Okay, so there are two options. I didn't know that part. Okay.
Yeah. Active euthanasia is you inject death.
Right.
You end the life when you choose to do so.
Right.
The other option is passive euthanasia. You refuse treatment and you watch the person leave,
right,
exit. But the bigger question would be the legal and the moral. The moral part is tough to define because the Bible says, I have set before you life and
death. Right.
And it also says choose life. Now, which is biblical? The option or the choice?
The option? What do you say, the option?
The option means then I have set before you life and death.
Right, and the choice is that you should choose life.
Is it imperative?
That's a good question. I would have looked at the Greek, but I wouldn't say I don't know if it's imperative, but because if it's imperative, then God is commanding you to do it.
You have to.
You have to choose life.
See, birth is an imposition. Birth is an imposition, but is life an imposition? That's the question.
Yes.
Birth is an imposition, but at one point in your life, you realize that you can die.
Yeah.
You know that you will die.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you realize in your life that you can choose to die.
Ooh.
And at that point in time, and most people choose to live rather than die. Okay. The question is, it is at that point in time life really becomes authentic. Why? Because you know you can choose to die, but you choose to live. So my question is that biblical option really true when God said, I have set before you life and death? So euthanasia must be understood in that context. For example, if you say I have a right to life, how can you have a right to life without you having a right to die? It must either go along with each other, or you cannot talk about one without the other.
Right.
So if you're talking about the right to life, then you have to talk about the right to die. The question is, are both Christian options, or only one of them Christian options?
Most people would say it's life. Choose life. Because God said when you choose life.
Now, I have said before you life. But he says choose life.
Right. He recommends choosing life.
He recommends, or is it an imperative?
Yeah, I think it's a recommendation, because if it's an imperative, then you have no choice.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the choice is taken away from you.
So some people argue this way, that without death, life would be an imposition. So if you can choose to die than live, then birth is not an imposition, or life is not an imposition.
Right.
Because you can choose to die, right?
Yes.
Natural death is not an imposition if you can choose to die before natural death. For example, wanting to die and waiting to die, are they both options?
They're both options, yes.
Both options.
Waiting to die
and wanting
to die. Yeah, okay. Because you're waiting to die means you're going to die.
But you're still going to die. But you're making a choice to wait.
Right.
Okay, but wanting to die?
And wanting to die, then you have a desire for death because of life.
Because of your conditions.
Yes, physical condition, yes.
Well, how does the Christian view and respect people who want to end suffering?
They view them not in a good light.
Pardon?
They don't view them in a good light. So
correct.
Exactly. Because some Christians think suicide is a bad thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
I think suicide is a decision.
Yes.
And some people find it hard to accept.
Mm-hmm.
But I think most people choose to live rather than die.
Yeah.
But here's my point.
Yeah.
If you know why you live,
Yeah.
you can handle the worst of times. So
I
people
like
who find it easy to find an excuse will always find an excuse to kill themselves. And sickness could be one of them.
Right.
So I think I mentioned to you some time ago in the class about the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the Jews when they were killed by the Nazis?
Right, yes, in Germany.
So a lot of them threw some potassium cyanide into the camps.
Yeah.
And told them, you're suffering, you might as well take this and kill
Drink
yourself.
it. Yeah.
So some of them said, no.
Whoa.
We know why we want to live.
Yeah.
We can handle this. So only those who do not know why they want to live
will choose that.
So I think sickness cannot be used as a pretext. Maybe you have not answered the question why you choose to live.
So in other words, meaning is what grounds you.
And 10 minutes of such life is worth living.
So people who have, this is interesting because I'm following your thoughts where when you said that there's, when you realize that life, you can choose life, you're going to die, but you can also choose to die.
Exactly.
But then you choose to live. And
against all odds,
all odds,
exactly.
You choose to live. And the reason why you choose to live is because, in my understanding, you have meaning. And you find meaning in life.
Exactly.
You find something that is worth living for.
Worth living for. Even though you are in terrible pain.
Yes.
Etc., etc. Such a life, 10 minutes of such a life is worth living.
Yes, that is interesting. And then and then the situation with the Jews. There's this Russian author named Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I don't know if I'm saying the last name properly.
He wrote the famous book, The
Gulag Archipelago. Yes, and if you read that book, it's very dark, but it's powerful too. It's like some of the stuff that he says happened to people in the gulags, right? Yeah, and you see those people are suffering and they could choose to end their lives, but they're still living, just like you said about the Jews, because they find that there's meaning, right? And I think that's one of the things that Christians struggle with, right? If God is so powerful, if God has the ability to heal you, if God has the ability to rescue or to not only heal you, but to keep you through the suffering, because he promised that he'll be with you. He said, in this life, you will face tribulation. That means you'll face suffering, but be of good cheer because I have overcome this life. I've overcome this world. So if he makes that promise to you and he's able to keep you, then why would you end your life?
You have to find out how strong they are with reference to the will to live. If you know exactly why you live, why you choose to live,
yes.
Again, as I mentioned, then you can handle the worst of times. But if you do not know why you live, even the best of times will make no sense to you.
Wow.
And that's the reason for me, while I respect people who choose to die, because I think
they can
it's a legal right.
Choice. Yeah.
But it's very hard for me to judge why they give up on life.
Right.
When you know that it does not matter. If you know why, then you can handle this.
Yeah.
But some people, that becomes shady. Why? And they use this predicament as a way out.
Interesting. I think you've answered that properly. I like that. So we're going to move on to the next quote. He said, the true test of society. All right, let me move on to our next one because there's a lot of stuff here on morality. So let me just move on to one. He said, in a world where cultural norms often clash, let empathy and understanding be the bridge that unite us in our shared commitment to ethical living.
Have you heard of emotional quotient?
No. Inform me.
You have heard of IQ?
IQ, yes.
Okay. Similarly, there's another test that has come out. It's called EQ.
EQ, okay, EQ. Yes. I've heard about the EQ, yes.
Yeah, EQ is about, you not only understand your emotional health,
right,
also the emotional health of fellow human beings. We all go through all kinds of issues.
Right.
And how you cope up with this is more important than how smart you are.
Interesting.
A lot of people can sense in each other what each one is going through.
Yes.
Some people cannot. They cannot identify with your issues and your pain, your paradigm.
Yeah.
Nothing, they cannot.
Yeah.
But the beauty of life is not only to understand who you are, you must understand who you are dealing with every day. Everyone has a part in your life. Just take, for instance, how much you are dependent on others.
Right.
Your clothes, your food, your well-being, your transportation.
Yeah.
How many people are involved in your life, and how can you simply say that I have nothing to do with them?
Yeah.
So
I mean, they're part of your existence.
They are part of your existence. So
Yes.
I think the more you realize how interdependent society is, the more you'll respect the need for that. What's your read the statement again?
I'll read it again. It said, in a world where cultural norms often clash, let empathy and understanding be the bridge that unites us in our shared commitment to ethical living.
Yeah, empathy is a very interesting word. I think there are many authors have pointed out that alterity is another interesting philosophy that says that when you see the other person, do you see the sameness or the differences?
So if you see the sameness, then it seems like you're just looking at yourself.
No, sameness, you identify yourself.
Okay, humanity.
Humanity, yes.
All right, yes.
But
yes.
if you see just the differences, then you may distance yourself from them. But I think the call is to see. Empathy means to see each in each other, if it is possible.
Yes.
Then we'll be much better off.
Yes, I like that, because like we're not the same.
At the same time, we are the same.
Exactly.
We are exactly the same.
In our humanity.
We might not be exactly the same, but there is a lot of commonality that should connect us rather than disconnect us.
Yeah. Did you know, I heard this, my wife, my daughter was watching this this thing on the TV, because we allowed to have a little screen time every now and then. And I heard the person that was talking said that every single zebra have different stripes.
And you can never differentiate them.
That's what I was going to say.
Then unless you
look at the differences. Yeah,
exactly.
That is interesting to me, because I've watched many.
You think they're exactly
the same. Because I've watched several documentaries like that look at it, and in a sense, it comes right back to your point where we're the same.
Yeah.
Right. We're the same and are different, and even though we're different, we're the same more than we're different in a sense.
Yeah. Do you know an atom? Hydrogen atom. They are one and the same. Okay. But even though they are exactly one and the same, they are not the same. Hydrogen atom.
Interesting.
They are exactly the same, right? But
Right.
are they one and the same?
No.
They are exactly the same.
Yeah.
But they are not one and the same.
Wow.
And hydrogen, one atom is here, one atom is there.
Yeah.
Though they're exactly the same, but
they're not one and the same.
They're not one and the same.
Yeah. It's interesting, because I feel like if we, while we disagree, while we live in a society, and you can see that where we disagree about so many things, whether it's about religion, whether it's about culture, whether it's about law, whether it's about philosophy.
Exactly.
We can't see the sameness. And I think when we see the sameness in each other, that is what unites us.
Exactly.
And that is what allows us to say,
empathy.
Even though we have the difference, empathy, exactly. Even though we have the differences, I can say we have the differences, but we're the same in our humanity.
We should cherish the differences.
Yes.
And I think I call it honest difference.
Yes.
Intelligence, race, gender are all honest differences.
Exactly.
And that doesn't give you reason to negate each other.
Yes.
Because we are still in the image of God in that sense.
Dr. Boyd would say life would be boring if we don't have those differences.
Exactly.
And he has this concept. Well, we were having a conflict resolution class, and the question was asked, will there be conflicts in heaven? And it was interesting, the points that some people have, because some people feel like heaven is going to be a place where everybody's agreeing. Like, I have no disagreement with you, you have no disagreement with me, and we're just like in this bliss stuff. I don't know.
What will it be?
He thinks it's boring.
Exactly.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Do you think heaven is going to be a place where we have conflicts and debates and stuff like that?
I would start with creativity.
Creativity. Okay.
Which means each person will be different, right?
Yeah.
In their creativity.
Right.
And maybe that's the place where our artistic side will flourish. We'll have a big art center.
Right.
In heaven, where everybody is creating.
Right. Like the creator.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think without getting annoyed and with each other's creativity, I think we'll all be very happy with our creativity. Here, you know, you immediately put a price on one person's creativity and say your creativity is nothing.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll have some kind of respect for each other's creativity.
Yeah. Do you think we'll have conflicts, debates, disagreements?
Yes.
You think so?
In a healthy way.
In a healthy way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's such a thing like a healthy debate.
A healthy debate. Yeah. I mean, most of the debates I've seen are not healthy.
Yes.
There's always one person trying to prove
you're wrong and
you're
I'm
wrong
right. You see?
And I'm right. Right. They just like you started, they're not trying to understand the next side.
Yes.
I mean, there are some people who try to, but for the majority of people, they're not trying to understand the next side, and they can't even reason the next side.
Or want to know what they are thinking about it.
Exactly. They don't even know what they're disagreeing with in some cases.
Correct.
But it's hard for us in a sinful context of our universe to see how heaven can have some of these things like disagreements and
we want to juxtapose what's happening here, you see.
Yeah.
And here we see every conflict ends up with a fight.
Yeah.
And we are thinking that if it is going to be there, also we might end up in a fight.
Yeah.
But we have to keep in mind in heaven, the best thing that will happen is openness to creativity.
Right.
And without conflict. Creativity without conflict. Here, all our creativity ends up in some kind of conflict.
Yeah. Because one person can make a painting and it's worth billions.
Billions. The other fellow throws some paint on a canvas and it means nothing.
It means nothing to no one but himself. Yeah.
Exactly.
We're talking about conflict, and I want to bring up something that's happening today in the world. You heard what happened in Israel last year, October, where this group called Hamas, they launched about 5,000 rockets into Israel. It resulted into this big war. I'm not going to say much about it, but what is your take on it and what's happening there? Have you been following it at all?
Nationalism is a very interesting idea.
Yes.
What is the basis for nationalism? So some people say it's religion. So if your basis for nationalism is religion, it's only one factor.
Right.
There's other factors like language, race, ideology. So these are all the factors that and people are basis for nationalism. So why the Israel Hamas conflict is centered around religion? One puts emphasis on Islam, the other puts emphasis on
Judaism,
Judaism or Jewish faith. So the only way you can solve this problem is we should create a secular state. What's a secular state? A secular state is where the state does not take sides, support either religion. A secular state is a state that does not support, it does not say that there is no religion. It does not support any religion, any particular religion. But as long as you have a fundamental state, like in Muslim countries, and to some extent in Israel, where they say that they are a secular state,
right?
but they only support one faith
right.
versus the other. So as long as you don't respect religious freedom, this tension is a given.
Yeah.
But only in a secular state can you. In a secular state, religion cannot play an important role.
Right.
But in a fundamental state, religion plays the most important place in nationalism.
Right.
And that's what the conflict in Israel is.
It's about.
It's whether you want to create a fundamental state or a secular state.
So like the United States.
United States is a fundamental. It's a secular state,
right,
where all religions can reside.
Right.
You can preach, you can practice, and propagate. But
without fear of interruption from
repercussions. Yeah.
So it's interesting because, like, I've asked many questions about what they think a solution would be. In terms of this conflict has been happening since the 1960s, I think, when Israel became a state. And, some people are saying that, well, what Hamas is trying to do, or what the Palestinian, or to a broader extent, Islamic people within that region want, is just Israel out of the Middle East. Completely.
Yeah, the Jews.
So they probably don't even want a secular state. They just believe that Israel is on
as long
land.
As you put emphasis on treating a group of people based on their religion, you'll have a problem.
You'll have a problem.
If you say that Jews should be exterminated because of their religion, how is that possible?
Yeah.
You'll only spread Jews around the world who practice their own faith.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it is a very difficult situation because of the tension between these Jews and Hamas.
Right.
But I think the only day they will wake up to some real political solution is when they give up on the basis for the difference is religion now. So as long as that is the way they're looking at each other, they will never resolve
the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So
you're not able to see what is common between them.
Yeah.
They're only seeing what is
different,
distinct from each one of them. That is their religion. And they are fighting in the name of God. I think
true.
Fighting is okay,
right?
Because that's a given. But fighting in the name of God is the worst form of fighting.
So you think it's okay to fight?
You can fight because I'm not saying it's okay to fight.
Yeah.
But on a scale, if you're fighting, it's bad enough. But fighting in the name of God is the worst form of fighting.
Yeah. Why?
Because you're killing in the name of God, and God stands for what?
For
peace and
peace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That very who forget anything about what you say about God.
Yeah.
If God is meaning for peace, and what all religions talk about it, then demonstrate it.
Demonstrate peace.
Yeah. Or fight. Don't use the name of God.
Right. Because God is not for that.
Exactly.
I like that. Do you think that Israel has an historical tie to the land that they're on right now? And I'm speaking based on the fact that God gave it to them.
They think so.
Yeah. So what do you think?
That is a very interesting question. Can you write history based on what the Bible says 2,000 years ago? Because Israel land was created in 1947 or something close to that, based on that very same principle that this land was given to
the Israelites.
Us, yes.
By God.
But that's interesting.
Yeah. So what do you think? Because we believe in the Bible as scripture, right? And it's a part of history, and there's history outside of scripture. But we see clearly where in the scriptures God gave the land to Abraham and his seed forever. And as I said, there's a literal and a spiritual interpretation to that promise.
Some people say they were destined to come back. Some Jews themselves say they were not supposed to come back.
Yes.
Right? You know both the schools of thought.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how now, within the Jewish community, some people feel that they have a right to the state of Israel. And some people, the Zionism basically is that. But there are a lot of other people, Jews, who are not in Israel, are outside of Israel, say that we don't have a right to that land. Yeah. So it is a political question. I don't know whether my personal answer would be biased, definitely, because I'm a Christian, and from a Christian point of view, our New Testament is preceded by Old Testament.
Right.
So anyone who kind of supports the Old Testament to some extent would get my support, right?
Right.
But that is being a little naive in trying to resolve something so complex.
Right.
As that.
Yeah. We're praying that things will work out, and we're praying that
I think
lives
it will
be
work out.
saved.
Yeah, lives will be saved. I don't like killing of any sort.
It's because it's a lot of killing going on.
A lot of killing going on, and I think we have forgot the meaning of religion.
Yeah.
Both groups.
And the meaning of religion is love.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's love, and that's the greatest commandment, right? Like, love. The greatest commandment is love God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and the second is to love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard too, because it's like, what do you do with the fact that some of the graphic videos that we've seen of what Hamas did? Like, it's like, what do you do about that, right? Like, something.
Especially if they look at it from a starting point, who started that?
Exactly.
You see?
Exactly.
But then, is there any proportionality to how you respond?
Yeah. Like, what's the proportion? Like, when do you pull back?
When do you pull back? You see?
And I think the fear probably in Israel are what Israel is trying to say is that we can't pull back until we get rid of Hamas.
Exactly.
Right? Because it would seem logical to assume that if Hamas is not eliminated, then the threat is still there. And who knows? They could do something worse.
Again.
Right? Yeah. So you want to completely get rid of that. But in the process, like, thousands of people are dying.
Losing their lives.
Innocent people. I can't watch the news.
2,000 people lost their lives in the Jewish population, but then you have tens and thousands of people displaced in the Palestinian.
Yeah.
So kids. I think that none of us should take sides, but all of us should wish that reason prevails and some practical solutions come to an end. My personal feeling is that if you try to let them resolve the problem, it will never be resolved.
Right.
Because they are the ones who starting and are involved in the war. Yeah. I think the international body that created the state of Israel to begin with, I think we all should have a part in settling the matter, not just those two people.
Those two people, I agree too.
If you leave it to them,
then they're going to keep fighting.
They'll keep fighting.
They're going to keep fighting. Exactly.
That's my personal view.
Do you think, because Israel is a state, do you think if Palestine or the Palestinian people have their own state, then that could be a solution too?
Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
Provided both of them adopt a secular state.
Right.
You cannot
they can't be religious.
Yes. Yeah. If you have a religious, two religious states, fundamental states side by side who oppose each other, they'll be constantly fighting, regardless of whether there's a state or not.
Yes, I see. So it has to be a secular state.
It has to be a secular state. And somebody has to wake up and say, listen, religion cannot be the basis for government. For example, in a secular state, we separate religious laws from state laws.
State laws, yes.
But in a fundamental state, they don't make the distinction between religious laws and state laws. They become the same law.
The same law, like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. And you know what's the problem with the fundamental state?
Yeah.
In a secular state, we only punish people for illegal behavior.
Right.
But in a fundamental state, you can punish people for immoral behavior. So that's why in like Iran and all, if you don't wear your hijab, they can punish you.
Yeah.
Because they don't distinguish between state laws and religious
laws.
But only illegal behavior you can get punishment.
In secular states like the US.
Yes. You cannot punish people for immoral behavior.
Yeah, that is interesting because some of those punishments are cruel. Like I have seen,
that's because they don't make the distinction.
Yeah,
punishment is not reserved for. It's only reserved for illegal behavior, never for immoral behavior.
Yeah, because people.
That's the beauty of a secular state. Why do people want to come to Canada and America? It's because of this principle that nobody will be punished for immoral behavior.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's interesting. I want to push over to Ukraine a little bit. So one of the problem with the situation over there is